and let us all do we can to build a better future. So Bernie Sanders is still a nutless wonder. He is upset at the uncommitted voters. And see, the thing is, not only is it Bernie Sanders, but it's everyone from Morning Blow to Hill Dog herself. Everyone's in a state of denial about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who's 81 years old. Joe Biden, who will be the oldest sitting president in U.S. history if he's elected. He'll be 87 years old should he walk out of office. Listen, Biden ain't no spring chicken. And the mental gymnastics that Bernie Sanders, Morning Blow, Hill Dog, and everyone else that's a pundit at CNN or BSDNC or part of the Democratic establishment is astounding. Trying to defend Joe Biden. But here, first, let's start off with Bernie Sanders. How he gaslights the uncommitted voters. Let's play this video.
I mean, it seems like political pressure might be one thing to get the administration to take a more aggressive posture vis-a-vis Netanyahu. And I wonder what you made of the results from the Michigan primary earlier this week. Over 100,000 people voting uncommitted as an effective protest vote against this administration's policy.
It tells me, and I think it tells the White House, that there are large numbers of young people, large numbers of minority people, large numbers of Americans who are sick and tired of the slaughter of the Palestinian people. And again,
is it a genocide, though, Bernie?
Again, this is not some distant thing. This is with our tax dollars. Those guns and the planes largely or significantly are paid for by U.S. tax dollars. So the word is, again, I mean, we cannot continue to support this right-wing extremist government. No more.
Is it a genocide, though? Is it a genocide?
Money. We must demand a fundamental change of policy.
Do you think that this could be an issue that could decide the 2020? If not entirely, you think this could be a deciding factor in the election?
Well, I mean, people have got to know that, Trump is, even more pro-Israel than Biden has been. But I think what you're going to see is a lot of young people, people of color, people of Arab descent saying, you know what, I don't like Trump, but I'm not going to come out and vote. So it could be decisive in that sense.
Now, Bernie, here's the thing. Biden doesn't have that much stable ground because everyone is seeing just how old he is. Now, the thing is, here's where corporate media, especially the big brain geniuses at CNN, believe that Biden 2024, that they can win a general election against Trump. But see, they're afraid if people stay home. And that's what could probably happen and will happen. People will stay home.
Once voters realize that it is definitely a rematch, there's no more Nikki Haley, and it is Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, they believe that they can swing voters towards Joe Biden because of that contrast. They're going to draw a contrast on immigration, on democracy, on abortion.
Really? Okay. Democracy, abortion, immigration. Well, the kids are still in cages. Sanctuary cities are overwhelmed. Roe v. Wade died under the Biden-Harris administration and have done nothing to do anything to protect a woman's right to choose. And hey, you got the economy that's crumbling apart, and you got unending wars. Tell me again how bad Donald Trump is.
Reproductive rights, all of that, and that voters just aren't tuned in yet. And then once they're able to do that, that they can bring people home. I mean, that being said, a lot of the Democrats that I talked to, I was talking to Adam Schiff this week as I was in California for the Senate primary, and he said one of his biggest concerns is young voters. So in addition to Black and brown voters, which are showing low enthusiasm for President Biden, a lot of Democrats are really concerned about young voters not coming home.
And as we dig into that a little bit further here, he's just performed. Biden is performing worse in the polls than he did in 2020 with those key demographics.
Gee, and I wonder why. Maybe it's because he never followed through with progressive promises, that he's only doing half measures. And I'm being generous with the word half measures. He's probably doing a quarter measure right now at this point, right? Maybe he's doing it even just 1% kind of thing. He never followed through with his promises. Biden failed his constituents. Biden failed his supporters. And to anyone that was bullied into voting for Biden in 2020, don't fall for the same trap in 2024.
Black voters, Latino voters, young voters, and just in the New York Times Siena poll, voters of color without a college degree, 72% supported Biden in 2020, 47% now, and Trump has a 15% increase since then. And then women voters, 57% of women voters back in 2020 backed Biden. That is down 11 points. Now, if you believe the polls, Trump up slightly. That's got to be alarming, too, for the Democrats that you're talking to all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And these Democrats view this not just as a referendum on the presidential race. They want Joe Biden.
Let's actually rewind that again. So again, choice for women is Trump. It's now tied. Biden and Trump. That's not good, Democrats. You're losing. You're losing women. Democrats. How stupid are you?
Exactly. And these Democrats view this not just as a referendum on the presidential race. They want Joe Biden to be reelected for a myriad of reasons, but also for their own races. I mean, when you're talking to Adam Schiff, he's concerned because he also wants to ensure that he can turn people out, right? And so that is the difficult part of this for so many Democrats, and why so many of them may say, well, I'm confident Biden will be able to survive this once it becomes very clear it's him versus Trump.
Are you sure about that?
But in this moment, they're also arguing, what if people just stay home?
And they will. And they most likely will, because no one's excited or enthusiastic for Biden, or either that people will vote third party and independent, as they should. But here's Morning Blow, where everyone is discussing how he's too old to be an effective president.
Well, you're right. Polls are, of course, a snapshot in time. And what we saw in ours was that voters are very concerned about Biden's age, and they are not as concerned about Donald Trump's age. We looked at people who voted for Biden last time around in 2020, and 61% of those voters said that they were worried his age would make him less effective. More concerning for the Biden campaign, about 20% said that they were worried he couldn't handle the job because of his age. Those numbers were just not the same among people who voted for Trump or the general, population of registered voters nationally when you look at Donald Trump. So I think what we're seeing here is that age is an issue for the campaign. It's a concern for them. Republicans have been very effective about making this concern over several years. And Biden's team, while they're responding now, we see they're putting him out more. He did, the late night show last week where he sort of joked about it. He's taking more questions from reporters. They perhaps didn't address this right away and early enough and aggressive enough, and it has allowed to sort of fester and expand. And of course, they weren't helped by the special counsel report earlier last month. So,
yeah, where Biden comes off as a friendly guy, but he's not mentally competent. Displays a sense of dementia. That Biden is struggling to remember things. I think, honestly, that report was the perfect chef's kiss and slap in the face for every single vote blue, no matter who's sycophant that was going to bat for Biden in 2020.
This is an issue for voters, and there's just no getting around that.
Lisa, I noticed some interesting numbers in terms of young voters,
yes,
and how that's changed relative to the poll I think you all did 3 months ago. Talk both about what you found with young voters and women.
So young voters are the holdouts here. They're more concerned about Biden's age. They're less likely to think he should be the nominee. We've seen some growing trend in terms of Democrats are beginning to accept that Biden's going to be the nominee. Of course, there was earlier, last year, there was tons of sort of chatter about could there be someone else? And, Democrats were throwing out all kinds of names. I think every Democratic governor in the country was named as a potential replacement. There's sort of a growing awareness among the party that that's not going to happen. I mean, the party's certainly officials and knew that, but voters didn't seem to sort of make peace with that. And now we saw in the poll that they are. They're starting to come to the recognition that Biden will be the nominee.
Ugh. God, how terrible. But see, I like this article here. It's from a New Yorker columnist who wants Biden to release his delegates at the Chicago convention and drop out of the 2024 race. It's only 20 seconds long, but it's funny.
If the president really wants to wow a big audience, he should drop out, according to New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd, who wishes the president would say, "I was serious, folks, when I called myself a bridge to a new generation, a transitional figure. I'll release my delegates this summer at the Chicago convention to vote for the candidate they feel can carry our banner into the future." That would be historic, but the speech could make history for different reasons.
Nah. I mean, who knows? Honestly, again, myself and Keaton, we discussed this on Due Dissidence on their show just a few weeks ago. And I have to agree with Keaton on this one, but there have to be some Democratic strategists with at least a functioning brain and able to read the environment, knowing that Biden is just too senile to carry the banner. If they follow through with him to the very end, it really says a lot about how the Democrats strategize and constantly keep effing up all the time. It's probably because it's on purpose now. But if they were smart, which I think there has to be at least a handful there is going to be an attempt, or is it at something being done to make sure Biden's not the nominee in Chicago. And yes, we here at Hard Lens Media will be covering that convention. We cannot dismiss the age of Biden, but hey, here's Hill Dog adding in her 2 cents. People should move on from Joe Biden's age.
And, somebody the other day said to me, Zerlina, well, but, Joe Biden's old. I said, you know what? Joe Biden is old. Let's go ahead and accept the reality. Joe Biden is old. So we have a contest between one candidate who's old, but who's done an effective job.
By the way, Hillary, every time you praise somebody, everyone should then start raising their eyebrow and wondering, wait, you're giving praise to Joe Biden? That makes me want to take 2 steps further away from him.
And doesn't threaten our democracy. And we have another candidate who is old, barely makes sense when he talks.
Excuse me, that sounds like Joe Biden you're describing.
Is dangerous and threatens our democracy. So really, pick between your 2 old ones.
Okay, who? Because when Biden speaks, you don't understand what he's saying. When Biden gets on the stage, he looks like, where am I at? Where am I at? Where am I at? Oh. And he brings up world leaders that are dead. Not alive, dead. D-E-A-D, dead. That they're dead. He's bringing up world leaders. He confused the president of Egypt and Mexico. 2 different countries altogether. Just like Nostradamus and Quasimodo. 2 different things altogether. I had to throw my Sopranos quote, okay? Come on. Quasimodo, he predicted all this, By the way, that was a horrible way to pause Hillary right there. Ay.
And figure out how you're going to save our democracy, because no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, you want to maintain freedom and the rule of law and protection for people's fundamental rights, or at least I used to think so.
Oh, God. Ugh. So, yes, Democrats, the establishment media, Bernie Sanders, the nutless wonder, they're all doing mental gymnastics to protect their boy, Biden. Now, the DNC convention here in Chicago will probably be very historic in many ways. If they follow through with an senile old goat like Biden, it really says just how pathetic the entire DNC establishment truly is, and that they are walking into something that they know they very well could lose. Or the DNC convention can actually be entertaining, and maybe it'll be an event in which things are shaken up, and there will be a nominee selected that's not Biden or Harris. We shall see what happens with that whole entire process. But the Democrats have made it very clear. They realize that they put all their eggs in one basket, and now all what they have to rely on is fear and gaslighting and making you feel bad and bullying all of you and telling you to get over it. That you have to get over the fact that we have a senile old man leading us. They have to get over the fact that Biden made sure that nothing would fundamentally change. You need to get over the fact that there's unending corruption. You need to get over the fact that the economy is terrible for you to get on by. You have to get over the fact that there's endless wars, get over the fact that there's so many natural disasters taking place, as well as man-made disasters, such as train derailments, the most recent one taking place in Pennsylvania. Our infrastructure is falling apart. We live in an oligarchy. So you have to get over the fact. Get over it. There's going to come a point in time where these politicians are going to one day wake up and look around and say, hey, how come no one's supporting us? How come no one's here for us? We got to bully them harder. And the thing is, it's not going to work, and people will push back. People should get angry. Don't rely on politicians like Bernie or AOC or anyone who's part of the two-party system to represent you. They're not going to stick their necks out for you. Corporate media is not going to empower you. They want you to feel guilty and ashamed that you are able to be a free-thinking individual. That's nothing to be ashamed about. You should be proud of it, as you should be.